Sorry, I thought you were. Calling to order the Wheeling Plan Commission regular meeting for Thursday, March 12th, 2015. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could have given me some warning.
Mr. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Zangara.
Here.
Commissioner Dorban.
I'm here.
I'm Commissioner Stylen. I'm present. Commissioner Powers.
Here.
Acting Chairman Johnson.
Here.
That's 5 present. Chairman Rafato indicated that he would be absent this evening, and we have 1 absent.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings, any changes to the agenda tonight?
No, we have no changes.
All right, moving on to citizens' concerns and comments. This is the opportunity for any citizens to come forward and discuss anything other than what's on the agenda tonight. And do we have anybody? Okay. Consent items. We have 3 consent items tonight. Docket number SCBA 15-7, Metro PCS at 10 West Dundee Road for the approval of a wall sign. Docket number SCBA 15-8, Chicago Fit Life at 451 North Gate Parkway, approval of a wall sign. And docket number SCBA 15-9, Dundee Spa, 847 West Dundee Road, approval of a wall sign. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call.
Commissioner Dorban.
Yes.
Commissioner Zangara.
Yes.
I'm Commissioner Stylen. I vote yes. Commissioner Powers.
Yes.
Acting Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
That's 5 yes, 1 absent, and 1 vacancy.
All right. Thank
And
you.
before we continue, can I ask Andrew to maybe give a little brief synopsis of what some of these companies are, if you know?
Let me go back to the beginning. Metro PCS is a cell service provider. Chicago Fit Life is a CrossFit training facility on Northgate Parkway. They do small group and private training. And Dundee Spa is a nail spa. That would be located at Dundee Elmhurst Plaza.
All right. Items for review. Do we have the petitioner here?
Do not see them. Brooke, do you want to check the hall and see if they're
Otherwise, we'll go
in the
to
lobby?
the other one
Go on
first.
to the other one first. Should go all the way downstairs.
Okay, well, we're going to skip 7A for now, and we'll move on to 7B. Docket number 2015-2, Korean Cultural Center of Chicago, 9610 to 9945 Capitol Drive, special use site plan approval for a religious assembly use. Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. Docket 2015-2 is Patricia Kim, President of the Korean Cultural Center of Chicago, property owner, is seeking special use and site plan approval as required under Chapter 19-6, Commercial Districts, Sections 19.06.040B-3, General Commercial and Office District, Chapter 19-10, Use Regulations, and Chapter 19-12, Site Plan Approval Requirement and associated sections to establish a religious assembly use within the existing cultural center at 9610 through 9945 Capitol Drive, Wheeling, Illinois. Now, the standards for a special use is a zoning special use is defined in Title 19 of the Village of Wheeling zoning, is a use of a parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to circumstances or effects on the surrounding properties that may adversely affect them. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing why the request meets the condition of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that their request for special use meets the standards established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings.
Thank you. If you could come forward. The Korean Cultural Center has an existing special use approval at this location. The particular petition in front of you now is to allow the existing use of the facility to be modified just slightly to have the ability for religious organizations to use the facility when they're not in, when the various buildings and rooms are not in use by the cultural center itself. So there are no site plan changes associated with this. There are some conditions of approval suggested by the fire department that are in the draft motion, and I can speak to those if that comes up during the course of the hearing. But with that, I'd like to hand the floor to the petitioner.
All yours.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here. And my name is Seung-ja Kim. I'm current president of the Korean Cultural Center of Chicago. I like to, recently we have an increased number of requests for using our facility by religious groups. So we decided to submit the request for permit. And my staffer, Megan Delaney, will delineate all the necessary needs and the rationales for requesting this permission. Thank you. Megan?
Hello, and I had a PowerPoint, Andrew.
Yes.
Can I just use the mouse here?
Yeah, you can also look. I'll get you to where you started
Okay.
up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Megan, as President Kim said. And just a little background first about the Korean Cultural Center of Chicago. We were founded in 2005, and we're actually a very unique Korean cultural organization in the States because as compared to the organizations on the coasts, we have no government funding. So anything that we have done and everything that we are doing now is all grassroots initiative through the local community. So we are founded with these purposes. I'm going to kind of briefly go through them, but they'll come back later. One is to preserve Korean immigrants' history and cultural legacies. 2, to share the uniqueness of Korean culture. 3 is to serve as a center for cooperation among Korean Americans and their organizations. And 4 is to support cultural exchange. And the way we do those is 3 main ways. We have classes, we offer office space for use, and we have special events. So just very quickly, some classes that we have are education classes, so like history, languages, computers, art, dance, music, etc. And these cater to the Korean American community, but also to the wider non-Korean American community. And all of these classes allow us, as well as other individuals and organizations who share our space, to meet the needs of our local community. And again, we do share office space for any organization, and we do have special events. Our facilities are open for individuals or organizations who want to hold a one-time event. We also ourselves organize events, usually with the purpose of sharing Korean culture with the wider local community. And we also participate in local events. For example, in 2013, we worked with the local communities to bring the Gangnam Symphony Orchestra from Korea to the North Shore area. We had 3 concerts. Just last fall, we participated in the Taste of the Town. And upcoming next fall, our choir, our KCC choir, is going to be working with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra to put together a joint event. So we try to definitely do everything that we can to make ourselves a vital part of this local community. So this brings us to our special use. So as you know, we're looking to get permission for religious groups to use our center. As we're looking for more younger generations, the thought being that the older established groups have a space that they can use. So we're kind of hoping that we can fill a need for the younger groups who are looking to expand and kind of start their own chapters. And in our original application, we indicated that they'd be able to use the whole of our facilities. We've talked about it, and we're thinking of restricting them to buildings 4 and 5. Building 4 is also known as our community hall. We have a very nice multi-purpose space with stage, sound system, piano, and the building also has classrooms. So, you know, if the event isn't big enough to warrant the use of the large space, they can also use a classroom. Building 5 also has a multi-purpose space, though not as big, and it also has classrooms. So between those 2 buildings, whatever needs that these groups have will be met. And it's also based on availability. That's our current system for any of the programs or classes going on now. So it'd be on the same system that we're currently using. And then this brings us to why. So if you think back to those purposes we were founded with, one of the main focuses is community. So simply put, we strive to give the Korean American community, members of that community, a way to access each other. And we do that usually through classes that they can come together and find things that they're interested in that brings them in touch with other members. We also look to give access to the non-Korean community to the Korean American community. And usually we do those through those cultural events, and they promote that cultural exchange. And religion is a key way in which many people find a community and express their culture. So allowing religious groups to use our space is just further fulfilling our goal of being a community and cultural resource. Our reason number 2 is visibility. As the number of people who can use our space grows, so too does the number of people who know about us. So it's kind of that word of mouth marketing. And our last one is donations. We are a nonprofit, and part of our donations do come from people who share our space. So again, as the number of people who can use our space increases, so does our potential donor base. So that's always good for us. And again, as Andrew said, there's no construction or anything, and it will also not change the nature of our programming. Any program that we put together will not be affiliated with any religion. No new signage will go up. You know, even if a group is using it on a weekly basis, you know, they won't have their name up. No construction. There will be no unmanageable traffic. Again, we already have a special use permit that we can have cultural events in our community hall, which can fit around 200 people. And our parking lot has all been approved for that. And, you know, any religious event that would take place in that hall would be under the same conditions as a cultural or educational event. And therefore, we have no need to renovate our parking lots. And that is our proposal in a nutshell. Is there any questions?
Not at this point, but
Okay.
we'll say, actually, from my viewpoint, I was kind of surprised to see this one. I thought that you had permission to have religious.
I think
That's there.
I thought we did too, but apparently, I don't know, we don't. So here we are.
All
Okay,
right,
well then, thank you very much.
This is a public hearing. If there's anyone from the public who would like to speak on this subject, please step forward. And it looks like there's not. So we'll go to the commissioners. Start with Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, thank you for the presentation. That was really good, and I appreciate the overview. It makes it a lot easier for me to understand what's going on. I do have a couple questions, and maybe the first one's for staff. With the current special use that we have right now, is that tied to a specific time frame as far as Monday through Sunday from this time to this time? And with this new, quote, new special use and the possibly of expanding hours, would the new special use have to come with new hours if there are actual hours tied to the current special use?
I don't believe these hours conflict with the hours that are already approved. If they do, we would amend the special use specifically for that purpose. But the original special use was fairly open in the hours. It was open in use and hours, but we can double check that. I don't know the upper limit of the hours just off the top of my head, but if the project description that's being reviewed as part of this petition includes hours that are beyond that, that would be one of the items that we would amend once the ordinance itself is actually prepared.
Okay. You mentioned that when you have the intent to entertain more organizations to come in, will you, if the doors are like locked, you mentioned something about, will you have somebody come and open the place up, and just when they're done, you'll basically come back and lock the place up? Is that how you're going to do that?
Right, so our business hours are 9 to 5, but we do have programs going on until 8 or 9 during the week. So if we're gone and a program is happening, arrangements are made for that space to be open and ready for that event. And then when it's over, again, arrangements are made for it to be locked and ready to go for the next day. So it'd be the same, again, the same system that we have now would be what we would do again for these new religious groups who are using the space.
And with the additional activity, have you ever had any problem with parking at your facility with any of the events that you've held or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Do you know, in case you did have, do you have any spot for overflow parking? Do you have any kind of cross-access agreements with any of the people in the complex in case you do get filled, that you do have something available where they could go and park their cars in case the lot was full?
Where do we? There's across from our facility is a Korean church.
Right.
So we have an agreement with them for if there's any overflow parking that we can send
Great.
people there.
Okay. I really don't think I have anything more. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Stylen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All my questions have been answered. I think it's a great use to try and foster your center and make it more viable and hopefully grow in time. So good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Dorbant.
Thank you. I think it's a great use of the facilities. I've spent several evenings in your facility, and we were lucky enough to have you come to the Taste of the Town and see your wonderful performances. And we were there to see a number of other performances at your facility. And I welcome you, and I think that's a great use of your facility. And I have parked there when there's been a lot of people, and there's never been a parking issue. So I don't see that going forward either. Hope you'll be involved with Taste of Town again.
Good. Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Zangara.
Actually, I really have nothing as long as they follow with the occupant load with the fire department. That's all. That's good. Everything was fine.
All right, thank you. I just had one question regarding the condition from the fire department. when they say the petitioner shall provide a proposed seating plan for the areas to be used for religious worship purposes, it sounds like what they're looking for is something rather flexible. Or what they're looking for, like, what the maximum would be?
Sure, the fire department has already for this, the two larger multipurpose rooms that we're discussing this evening, the fire department has already set the occupancy levels for those rooms. They're just seeking confirmation that the addition of the religious assembly use in those spaces won't deviate from what's been approved. So they're asking for a floor plan of sort of the maximum seating capacity, just to show consistency with what's already been approved. So that condition of approval is in the draft motion for the commission tonight.
Should it be revised to say maximum, or, just to clarify? I don't know.
I think the way it's written with the occupancy, I can read them out loud now if you'd like to hear how they're
Sure,
written right now.
yeah.
So the first one is petitioner shall provide a proposed seating plan for the areas to be used for religious worship purposes. The occupancy load shall be verified and/or determined by the fire department based on the village's fire prevention code. Number two, changes to the approved plan shall be submitted to the fire department for review of compliance with the fire prevention code before deviating from the plan. So it's essentially just confirmation that they're staying within the maximum occupant level for those rooms.
Okay. All right, I have nothing else.
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Powers, seconded by Commissioner Dorban. Roll call.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorban.
Yes.
And Commissioner Stylin, I vote yes. Commissioner Zangara,
Yes.
Acting Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
It's 5 yes, 1 absent, and 1 vacancy.
Thank you.
And we do-
Thank you very
you.
much.
We do need a
Thank you.
motion to close the hearing, please.
I need a motion to close.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And she'll have some paperwork for you over here.
And the motion to close was Commissioner Stylin, seconded by Commissioner Dorban.
Yes.
One more, please.
Okay. We have to wait for them to close. Okay, going back to review item A, docket number 2015-1, A, B, and C, and PC 15-2. This is continued from February 12th, 2015. Kraus Lane Townhomes, 214 and 327 Kraus Lane. 2015 1A is rezoning from R2 single-family residential to R4 multiple-family residential. 2015 1B is variations from Title 19 zoning relating to access and building setbacks. 2015 1C is variations from Title 17 planning, subdivision, and developments relating to cul-de-sac dimensions. And PC 15-2 is site plan and appearance review of a townhome development. Mr. Jennings, if you could give us a synopsis of where we stand now. We've been with this one for a while.
So this item was in front of the Plan Commission about a month ago. There was a discussion. Many of the concerns of the commission at that time related to the plans, consistency among the plans, details on the plans, the landscape plan, the architectural plans, lighting plan. The commission requested at that time that when the item was continued, that the site plan and elevation plan missing details and inconsistencies be addressed prior to this hearing this evening. And by way of recap, what I'd like to do is just kind of go through the questions from that hearing rapidly, and then hand it over to the petitioner for an update. The questions, some of these items are conditions of approval that were suggested by the commission that would just remain conditions of approval. We'll cover those later on this evening. There were concerns about the landscape plan. The landscape plan has been replaced. The existing ash trees that were of questionable health are proposed to be removed. The proposed trees that the village forester thought might be too large have been removed as well from the plan, and a landscape irrigation plan has also been provided with two different types of irrigation separated between the planting areas and the lawn area. There was a question of a inconsistency on the survey, which led to possible inconsistency on the site plan and engineering plans. Petitioner's survey has gone through all of the public records available related to the original subdivision of the property, and to the best that they were able to determine, there is a unclaimed strip of land. Petitioner's proposal addresses that by building the proposed fence on the inside of the property line as they can determine it, and their proposal is to offer each of the homeowners to the north the opportunity to have the fence segments, the redundant fence segments, removed during construction. On review, it may be possible that those fence segments are already in that area, the unclaimed land area, but for the purposes of this proposal, the petitioner is proposing to allow each one of those homeowners the opportunity to have the redundant fence segment removed.
That would give them a little additional property.
If the fences along the back of Edgewood are not already in that area, yes, it would potentially give them additional 2 to 3 feet of yard behind the fence of the proposed development. That's this area, the unclaimed strip of land that you see here.
That's the piece that's labeled no man's land?
Yes. And again, the survey that was done did not identify the fences along Edgewood. Some of those fences may already be within that area. We just don't know for sure. There's a suggestion about the stability of the soil. That remains as a condition of approval. There was a suggestion of a condition requiring an escrow to be held during construction for the purpose of ensuring restoration of the driveway on 325 North Milwaukee. The petitioner has provided draft escrow agreement. The air conditioning units have been located as requested. You see them paired here and on the edges of each building. Related to that, the commission had asked for determination as to whether or not privacy fence extensions could be built along the unit lines. The site plan has been updated to illustrate that that is a possibility. They would allow the association to extend fences for privacy. There was a question raised by the commission that the road, as it was shown on the previous site plan, ended abruptly. There was about a 5-foot to 8-foot difference in the width between the proposed segment of road and the existing curb on the parking lot to the west. There was a request for the petitioner to address that. That has been addressed by both a sign indicating that the road narrows as well as a more gradual fade of the curb line, which you see here. So there would be warning that the road is narrowing, and then the road itself would narrow somewhat gradually. The irrigation plan, which has been submitted, addresses the question of centralized irrigation. On this plan, you see the petitioners proposing pad for centralized control of the irrigation system so that the homeowner association would have the ability to set the timer. The photometric plan, which I will not skip to, I think it's several slides away. Photometric plan has been replaced. Petitioner has provided a photometric plan which shows the street lights. You see the street light here, which has been added. The lighting levels have been studied. The photometric plan includes lights next to the garages as well as lights on the entry doors. And you have in your packets the cut sheets for those light fixtures. The sidewalk has been redrawn to continue around the north of the guest parking area to provide access into the detention area. There's one other note on here. In working with the petitioner this week, the petitioner had prepared an elevation drawing to comply with the requirement to illustrate the primary elevation in color. The asphalt shingle that had been selected previously during the preparation of the drawing, the petitioner had elected to switch to a uniform roof color for both buildings. The roof color in your packet was originally selected to complement and coordinate with the brick color of each building. During the preparation of those drawings, it was determined that those were likely to be too similar and not provide enough contrast between the roof and the brick. So the drawing that you have in front of you, which I printed out, and I believe I have this, shows what is currently proposed. We have a note in the draft motion that would require the material sample drawing to reference the different color sample. Beyond that, the petitioner is here. This is a public hearing. Much of the public hearing testimony has been taken, but given that there are a few new materials, we will open that to the public for discussion of the new items in particular. So with that, the petitioner.
Do you have a list? In the meantime,
Do you have anything to add?
come up and add whatever you'd like.
Chris Winorzewski, architect representing the owner. Thank you, Andrew. Basically, a lot of things has been already explained. I just would like to add, to the photometric plan. I was able to work with the distributor in regards to lighting, and we'll be able to make the photometric plan, even including the exterior light located on the building, at the garage, on the sidewalks. So we have right now sufficient lighting. We revised the landscaping plan, as Andrew Jennings said, and did the new irrigation plan with 2 zones, one for the spray, one for the underground watering system. We located on the northwest corner a pad which will be served for the irrigation. It will be served for the water main, which will be for the association. It will be served for the electrical meter, which will be the association. We will surround this area as a triangle with the fence, wood fence. There is good point with this north part. I call this no man's land. I spoke with the surveyor. We have a strip on the west-south ranging 3 foot in width and going to the east 5 feet. We were planning to put the fence we have to put on our property line, but we will be talking to the neighbors across and ask them, we can remove the fence without any, charge, and this way, maintain. So basically, this land will be belonging to them. I mean, that's how I see it right now. This, we revised the driveway to narrow a little bit the driveway, and I think a lot of issues has been addressed, and most of the issues has been addressed. I mean, if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the,
Yeah, we'll move on to the public.
okay, we did have a few people sign up. John Seberg. If you have not spoken before, we will need to swear you in.
Brooke, acting as secretary. Do you swear the testimony you're giving tonight is the truth?
It's the truth.
Okay. Brooke, are you recording the names and
I
addresses?
have it signed
Oh,
over. John
yeah, there.
Seberg, 321 Kraus Lane.
That's correct.
All right, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. I've lived on Kraus Lane since September of '81, and I've been a long-term resident there. And I've seen, many changes with Kraus Lane. 3 years ago, we had a meeting here, and it was then revealed at the point to people that were maybe not aware of it, that there had been the existing pond, that there was a second pond that was filled with contamination. And there's other people that have seen this, and it's not just the people on Kraus Lane. I've contacted other people that will give sworn testimony or have sworn depositions as to what was placed in that pond. So one of the big issues is what's in the ground, which contains probably 2/3 of that building site where those buildings are going to go. And the existing pond, there's really not that I can say there are any problems with that other than some rocks that have been thrown in it or what have you. But it's what's in the ground up front. That's a serious issue. And I'm here I was in Arizona up until Monday. I flew in Monday. I spoke to you while I was in Arizona. And we discussed this, I discussed this with Andrew Jennings. I also discussed this with the village president. I called him. And we both spent about 10 or 15 minutes on the phone. I tried to see you the other day, but I guess you were unavailable. It was late in the day. But the two concerns that I have are whatever reconfiguration there's going to be concerning the stormwater. And the real issue, I don't know if any of you people have any of you actually walked this site to look at it in person, to really get a feel for what's going on here. Because when you look at the lot line on the north, where they talk about this no man's land, it drops down 2 to 3 feet in elevation going into Edgewood Drive. And what I have here, and I'm going to leave this with you, this is yours to have. This will explain what were the original storm sewers put in that also incorporate the pond and go all the way back to the Des Plaines River. Okay, and agreements were made, and what goes back to the Des Plaines River was a 12-inch pipe. And what Coral Construction had planned to do when building the building in the front, they were going to build a second building, phase 2, which was going to be a clone building. Good guys, Larry and Lawrence. And in order for them to get the permission on the house to the north, they had to, they had to go through us to get that pipe, or there was no way they could build the second lot. And the fact of the matter is that the second lot was never developed. After they built the first building, they had a tough enough time filling all 8 units. They had their office in the back. And then afterwards, the big glass building just north of Lake Cook in Milwaukee went up, which gave ample office space in Wheeling, so their idea of the second office was gone. They had proposed a building like a Shadow Bend building, a large 6 or 8 unit building, and the neighbors there, myself and Marie and Greg and Barb Abraham, we kind of shot that one down. Then they proposed putting 3 houses in there, which made some kind of sense. And that meeting was actually, this is pretty funny, it was the village president, Greg Kletecki at the time, that mediated that at Village Hall, the old Village Hall. So we got together with Greg Kletecki. And Greg went, he says, you've got to let them build something there. And so the three of us agreed, okay, the 3 houses sounds like a fine idea. And when the meeting was nearly done, all of us said, but you have to understand what's in the ground. There used to be a pond there and it was filled in illegally. And at that point, you should have seen their mouths drop. And it was within probably a few weeks to a few months that the building up front was sold to the current owners. And the lot that is in the front, 214 Kraus Lane, was put up for auction and sat there for quite some time. And I suspect that Luxus Home Development, who actually, headed this project about a dozen years ago, they still own the lot in the front, and Andrew owns the lot in the back. So what was proposed 3 years ago, that was a conclusive thumbs down, with your wisdom, thumbs down 3 years ago. I kind of wonder why things have changed, because we've gone from 10 units and 3 buildings down to 8 units and 2 buildings. And Commissioner Dorban, you made a great point with the amount of units for an association. And I remember you telling me that you had lived in a small association, and that can be a real problem when you don't have as many units paying into an association. If you have problems with 1 or 2 people, or they have tough financial times, that's not a good thing to keep maintenance going. Yeah, I remember you making mention of that. And we've now gone from 10 units to 8 units. So that situation gets worse. But the real situation here, 2 of them, this is quite, quite an organization, or quite a name. I've talked to these people while I was in Arizona also. Very nice. I talked to Jennifer Burns. She was their public affairs person for about a half hour. And this is the Stormwater Management / Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. And they're the people that look over stormwater and any changes to it. And there are 2 parameters that they work off of, she explained to me. And what those parameters are is that either, well, actually, she had turned me on to a fellow called me the following week, Adam Wittek, and he explained there's 2 parameters, that the stormwater system, which is right here, it's been okayed by these people. The stormwater system has either been okayed by these people, and if so, any changes to it has to go through downtown before anything can take place. Or if the site plan is more than a half an acre. The site plan is at least an acre and a half. So the 2 parameters, either which way, it will go through those people. And the problem is that you have a 12-inch pipe, which was sufficient for what the village and the water people downtown saw to be good back then for just a second clone building of the building up front. Well, what I'm looking at here is something that's going to take up a whole lot more land, and something they were concerned about is how many square feet of dirt is exposed for water absorption. That's one thing they brought up to me. They both looked at it on their Google map. They saw Kraus Lane. I explained the whole thing to them. And so I'll be in constant contact with these people. I'm going to send them one of these. I'm sure they have one already on record, but this will make it easier for them. And the fact of the matter is that it will have to go through them, any changes. So have the builders actually done their homework and realized what they're trying to propose? And what I'm looking at is a 12-inch pipe was fine for 1 more clone building, but it's not going to be satisfactory. Here's a 12-inch pipe back to the river. You think that's going to be satisfactory to run the stormwater off of what will be almost exclusively pavement? You need to come back and see the size of that pond. Now, I know they're going to refigure the pond, and what I've been told is that the pond is going to, or the new retention area is going to be able to handle twice the volume. But if it really needs to be exited, the water needs to go somewhere, will that 12-inch pipe all the way back to the river be ample? I don't think so. And so those costs need to be incorporated into this plan. It'll be a must from the people downtown. They're going to insist on it. And I know I talked to them about the pollution in the ground. And so the people downtown, they both of them told me that that's not what they do, but what they suggested, highly suggested, is that I contact the Illinois EPA. They said that's who you really need to talk to on this one. And a good friend of mine, Suzanne, who's worked for major banks and now she works for a major insurance company, her sister and brother-in-law both work for the federal EPA. And he's an attorney, she's a chemist. And I said, Susan, can you ask them what their opinion is? They came back with exactly the same thing. You need to talk to the Illinois EPA. We can't help you with that, we're federal. So you'll have to talk to the Illinois EPA. They have a whistleblower program, so you can become anonymous. And I said, I have no intention of becoming anonymous. I says, I'm more than happy to raise my hand, and yes, it was me that made the call. So somewhere, you know, it's only fair for the people that would buy these units that they need to know. They need to know and know in certain terms what these units have been built on. So when I look at a disclosure document, I'll give you these documents later and leave these with you to review, just a standard disclosure document, and you would think that that would be used as something that would be in a used situation. Well, in this particular situation, I think there needs to be a disclosure document. If these things do end up being built, there needs to be a disclosure document that the Village of Wheeling allowed this to take place, number one, and number two, the builders built on what was understood to be contaminated and basically a garbage dump, okay? And so...
We need to wrap up quickly.
Okay, I'll wrap this up. So the bottom line is that, you know, as far as doing taking a civic duty to this, it's my civic duty to see that these don't get built or whatever has taken place. One last point. I talked to one of your village inspectors, and this was about 10 years ago. And we were on my side of the pond, on the Kraus Lane side, right in front of my house. And this was Mark Johnson. Does anybody know Mark Johnson? Or yes, okay. And I says, Mark, I says, you know, he says, oh yeah, he says, I've lived in Wheeling quite some time. I says, you remember Kraus Lane? He says, oh yeah, I remember Kraus Lane. And so anyway, he said, I told him, I says, you see the pond there? And he says, yeah. I says, do you remember the big pond out front? And he kind of stopped for a second. He says, you're right, there was a pond out there. And I asked him, I says, what do you think happened to it? And he says, I don't know. And I explained to him what went into that pond. And the look on his face was just, and I says, what do you think it'd take to correct that? And he says, that'd be millions of dollars to excavate that and take care of it. I think that the bottom line, and I'll sum it up with just one phrase, I think the bottom line and the wisest decision at this point in time, before a can of worms is opened in this situation, and I really don't want to see that, is to let dead dogs lie and leave that property alone. And you start digging around in there, you're going to find out what's in that ground. I guarantee you. I saw it, and there's other people that will come forward, and not just people on Kraus Lane, not crazy people on Kraus Lane. They will come forward and say the same. And there's people on Edgewood Drive that I've talked to. They know what happened there too. So I'd like to sum it up with that, and hopefully, you know, you'll take that into consideration. I'm going to leave some of this with you. And what you ought to do, too, is look at different townhouse associations that are in the area. You can go up to Equestrian Grove and look at a street that's the right size and a layout that makes sense, okay? You can go over on Wolf Road there, and there's some beautiful ones there north of Strong. What is that? Millbrook Point. And there's 58 units, beautiful units with nice streets. I measured the streets, nice, right at the 30 feet. The kind of things that the village wants. This is nothing more than a collage of variations. I'm sure if the builders had any choice, they would have never purchased this property. If they knew back then, And I remember when Marie and I talked to them when they were trying to negotiate buying us out. I told them, we went to Park Ridge and talked to them. Do you have any idea what you've purchased? And oh yeah, we know what we've purchased. And we left there and it was like, okay. So this is where we're at. Thank you. And
Thank
I'll
you.
leave this with you later.
Susan Barnes?
I promise not to be quite as long-winded. Just one final point. He wants to build something, you want him to build something. He owns land that is damaged and not suitable for housing development, and the village owns a lot of land. I still think maybe there's some way that you could work something out so that everybody gets what they want. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Friedman?
Thank you. Matt Friedman, as you recall, I represent the owners of the building in front, the 325 North Milwaukee building. I'm not going to belabor the point that I've made over the past couple months. Let me just briefly state it, and then I'll move on to something else, which will also be brief. But the essence of what I've been saying over the past couple months is that there is no easement. There is no easement to traverse across Kraus Lane for the project that they want to build. Just because an easement may exist for single-family homes doesn't mean that if you change the zoning, the easement changes along with it. Property rights, fortunately, in our society are one of the most valued, one of the most protected things. And you can't just willy-nilly change zoning and say, well, the easement changes along with it. It doesn't. Unfortunately, as I mentioned last week, if in fact this project goes forward, we'll have to exercise the legal rights that we have to protect our building, to protect our tenants, and to protect our property. And that will involve a lawsuit against all the parties involved. There may even be, if I'm right in my analysis of the easement, and I'm very confident that I'm right, there may even be liability from the village to the petitioner. If it turns out that this moves forward and a court says you don't have easement rights, the petitioner could turn around and say, hey, village, you said it was okay, because it's sort of implicit in giving me an approval was your saying you have rights to the land for this sort of use. You have rights to access for this sort of use. And so there may be liability from the petitioner towards the village before all is said and done. Over the past couple months, I had mentioned how the petitioner never contacted us. The petitioner called us for the first time, his architect, today at 11 o'clock in the morning. I think expecting to finally, after what's been years, open up the lines of communication and resolve the issue, or at least talk about the issue. It's unreasonable that they would expect that at 11 o'clock today, 7.5 hours before this meeting, that we drop everything, sit down, and talk with them and come up with some sort of resolution. I think it's good that they contacted us. I think it's worth having a conversation when we can schedule it and everybody's available to sit down and meet. But to call for the first time hours before this meeting, after this has been going on for years, I think is unreasonable. Two other points, and then I'll sit down. There was some mention made about the damage, potential damage to our portion of the road while the construction's going on. Clearly, there's going to be some damage. But there's also the ongoing, recurring damage and maintenance costs because of the increased density. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more cars traversing across the road than if there had just been single-family homes built there. And those costs, which are hard to calculate, you can't look at the road and say, well, this pothole was caused by that homeowner and this one was caused by that homeowner. There's just going to be more use, and so there's going to be more costs and maintenance. And the cost of that is going to fall upon the tenants that are in this office building. These are mom and pops. There's a mom and pop marketing company, mom and pop insurance company, these kinds of businesses. They don't have money to pay for increased maintenance costs because the village decided to change zoning to increase the density on this road. One last point, and I don't know if this is going to come up, but from what I understand, the petitioner may have been out over the past couple days taking photographs of the road. That road has been battered over the past several months, obviously. And this is the first couple of days when you can even see the asphalt now that it's started to warm up. Between all the salt and all the freezing temperatures, there isn't a parking lot in the metro area of Chicago that looks good. So if they present the photos and say, look, the office building isn't even taking care of the road or the parking area right now, I don't think that that's a fair assessment. And I don't know that they're going to say that, but I know that this is my only chance to talk, and so I wanted to mention that. That's all I have unless there's any other questions.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to the commission now, and we'll start at that end. Commissioner Zangara.
Thanks. To the point of the road and asphalt, which I don't even think the plants are open right now, so not till, well, maybe middle of March they start, but yes. But they've come up with the plan, and I think they've done a great deal with the plan. I'm kind of torn. There's the issue of the land in these ponds that everyone's been talking about. My question, and I have the mentality of thinking if they're going to go and do something, obviously they're going to have to, like you said, take care of all that before they even put anything there. And that's the cost that we talked about. I mean, so, and that's going to fall into their hands. I mean, that's what happens. I was still concerned about not only the Kraus lane with the asphalt, the building, but even the access then, I was always concerned with the access to those houses, one during construction, one afterwards, and how that would all take place, basically. I mean, they've done their homework. I think my biggest concern and what I'm disappointed in is there hasn't been the communication like we thought there would be, even after the last meeting with saying that. I really thought, because I really think if the communication was there, I think it would, not only for the business up front, the residents, I think something could have came about it, but it just seems like there's been nothing happening, and I feel very disappointed about that. Right now, I'm just kind of torn right now, so I gotta leave it at that for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dorban.
Thank you. I do have a question for you. If the project were single-family homes, would you have a problem with the easement?
That's a good question. I think, sure. Look, I mean, I think everybody on this side of the room likes the status quo as it is. Right now the zoning's for single-family homes. I think, to be honest with you, I think it would be a difficult argument to make that there's no easement for single-family homes there. These folks have been using the road for years to cross it. So it's the zoning change. It's changed. The problem with the easement is that we're changing the zoning and saying that the easement stays the same, and that's what the issue is. So to answer your question, I don't think that would be an issue.
That would not be an issue if single-family homes were to be built on that property, correct?
I think that I haven't looked at it thoroughly in that regard, but my gut is that would be okay.
I just want a clarification on that. Thank you. what happens, and Andrew, and I don't know how to address this exactly. What happens if they start to build these townhomes, if it's approved, and they run into the debris that is under there? And the other gentleman is saying that it could cost millions to remove it. What happens if they start building and they find this debris and it has to be removed? I mean, is the project going to be stopped? Are they going to be able to afford to do it? Where does the village lie in a situation like that?
Well, there would be a point at which, if they were excavating, and it was found to be unsuitable fill for the type of construction they're proposing, yes, they would have to keep digging to the point where they could place appropriate compact fill suitable for construction. So that is something that's so far based on the geotechnical report that we've received. The preliminary geotechnical report did not come up with contamination. It did come up with the possibility of loose fill that would not be appropriate, that they would have to stabilize the soil to some extent. That is something that would come up prior to construction during the permit process. But as it is, no, there's no requirement at this point to go and dig. But like you said, if there were digging to take place and it was found to be unsuitable, they would have to keep going to the point. They would either have to walk away or keep going to the point where they could make it suitable for the construction that they're proposing.
So what you're saying, they could walk away. That means that they could conceivably start in this project, realize that the contamination is there or the debris is there that they have to remove. And if they say, wait, we can't afford to do it because it's too costly, they can then walk away from it and the village is stuck with this, whatever's there. Is that right?
You know, I would have to check to see exactly what happens. If it was, just for example, 2 feet down at that point, I don't know what their obligation is in terms of restoration of the site. That is beyond my knowledge. I'd have to look into that one.
Next question, as the gentleman brought up about the EPA being called in. I asked that question before. Now I'm torn because one person's saying, yes, that the EPA should be called, but we kind of got pushed back because there was testing on 3 pieces of this site and they were safe. So now my question is, where are we with that? Should we go one step further and go with the EPA? That may be an attorney question.
I mean, I believe when they checked, I mean, they did a testing to determine the contamination. So, and the site, as far as it was with the fill or the soil, wasn't contaminated, so that the EPA wouldn't require any remediation at this point because there's no evidence of the contamination. What Andrew's saying is if they start excavating and there's debris in there and stuff, obviously that would all have to be removed. You know, if there was, you know, say a refrigerator or something in there, they'd have to take the steps to remove that. If at that point there was something determined that would be more inhabitable, then that's, and it was, I don't know if it was contaminated or unsuitable, then once there was further evidence of that, the IEPA would probably get involved. But if they were called right now based on the testing that has been done by the petitioner, I don't know that the IEPA would get involved themselves because they did they did 2 steps of testing already.
Thank you.
So that's why they haven't gone further.
Okay. I think that Paul brought up a good point, and I've said it several times from the beginning, is that there should have been discussion with all the parties involved, and there wasn't. And that has disappointed me from day one. In answer to your question, I have not walked the property, but I've driven it since this came up originally years ago. I was there again today. And you may have seen me there today. And you know, every time I go there, I'm a little more amazed than the time before, because that road, first of all, is in terrible shape, and that's really sad. Yes, if something were built there, yes, the road would be fixed. It's still one lane in and out, and I really have some concerns about a proper road being put in there. So, and I'm not going to belabor that anymore because we've talked about that numerous times. And the other piece was, I had something else I wrote down as you were all talking. I can't remember anymore now what I wanted to say, but I guess I just don't want to belabor it anymore. I just think that we've said so much about it, and there's so many issues here. I truly wish that there had been better discussion, cross-discussion with all three parties. I think something could have come out of this, and to wait till the last minute to contact them today was very unfortunate. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as it was explained to us, that you have reached a fence agreement with the property owners in the back. Have you communicated that option to them if you were to go forward?
No, I didn't. I was checking this, talking to the surveyor, and we recently find out that there is the no man's land, and this is right now in the process of suggestion that that's what we would like to offer the neighbors to the north, because basically we can't put our fence on our property. We cannot put, next to the existing fence. So we can put on our property, and we will, once this will be approved, we will talk to the neighbors and said, okay, that's where we would like to put our fence, and we will offer you that we will remove your existing fence at no cost, and you will be having new fence. Let's say 4 or 3 to 5 feet, your lot will be deeper.
See, in a way, I would think that if you knew that was an issue, you may want to, head that off and actually go to the neighbors in the back and say, hey, this is what we're thinking. And I think if you're going to put your fence there, I really think the fences, those neighbors' fences should come down, and it's one way or the other. I don't think we should have two fences, with like 5 feet in between. To me, that just doesn't make sense. I think it's probably your fence and the neighbor's fences come down, and somehow I think that just needs to be solidified. And right now, I just, I don't know. If it was me, I think I'd go talk to the people in the back to be like a good neighbor and say, hey, this may be coming, and I'm going to I may be putting this fence in, and we're going to take down your fence because of this.
It is really hard for me to talk to the people, like, you hear John, what he said. It is my civic duty that those houses not be built. And, it is hard to talk to someone with such an approach.
Well, I'm talking about the people in the back, though.
Well, I spoke with them, but, most of the people, well, they didn't have too much, to say about this. But right now, what I'm supposed to say, we have a fence. We can discuss this issue. I mean, there are several ways to address this. We can address different way that, let's say, I will be asking a village of Wheeling that this land belongs to the cross line, and we can put the fence, along without any strip. I don't know right now how to address this. This was basically when I was talking to Andrew Jennings. This will be just idea right now that we would like to present to you.
I mean, I'm sure the people on the north side of you know that there's a property that could be developed. They may know that there's townhouses there going to be, and I would just say, hey, these townhouses, these may go in, and I'm proposing a fence. This fence will run over here, and then my proposal is to take your fence down, and my fence will be the fence that we'll have there. We won't have two fences.
This is such a small issue compared,
right.
What we're talking about.
Okay, it's communication. Let's move on. The sidewalk continues around the north edge of the parking stalls. I see that in 1 or 2 drawings, but if this packet were to go to the board, there's a lot of drawings that are older, and I know we suggested that the sidewalk go around the north side. I would hope that any drawing, since you're the architect, would reflect that the sidewalk goes around the north side of the parking stalls. I know it's extra work, but that's what's going to the village board. That, to me, that's a complete packet. Either you take some of the drawings out, or you keep what you have and you alter them to put the sidewalk in. That's really what I want to say about that. In the last meeting, the minimum set side back was 15.54. In the latest thing in our packet, it's now moved out to 1811, so it's gone back 3 feet. So how did that happen? Was the land resurveyed?
I was doing this new site plan based on the plot of survey dating 2004. So that's how I got, to this, I don't know how was the plan done before me, before I started to do the work on this project. I took this over, but once I got the plot of survey, that's how I determined, exactly the dimension of the lot, like the plot of survey was showing me, and that I got a little bit more space that I used to have.
So in the motion for the variation, as it would go to the board, is the board going to get 1554, or are they going to get the 1811? I mean, that's a detail. I mean, it's on in the packet, the plan of survey have, it's moved to 18.11. It's moved. So I guess I'm not understanding. What is
in the draft motion for the variation, there is a condition suggested to adjust the number from 15 to 18. The plans that are in front of you, the majority of them now use that 18. So the variation exhibit would need to be adjusted to match that dimension.
Okay.
The site plan itself has it both ways. The dimension that you see on the screen, right above, I've cropped this down, but right above this, there's a variation table that explains that the variation is 15. So the table on the top would have to be adjusted to match what's on down at the bottom of the plan down here.
I'm just asking for consistency before it goes to the board.
Yes.
You mentioned the 8x15 privacy fence, and I guess you kind of make that optional. Is that something? Is that your intent to make it optional, or should that be something that's standard? I don't know. If you go the optional way, I don't know. Some people may want it, some people may not want it. I don't know. To me, I'd say either they all have it or they don't have it. That's just my opinion. I see you put the location of the air conditioning units, but the rear and the side elevation drawings, they don't have it. And if there's something, when something goes to the board, it would be nice to see those units depicted on the elevation drawings. We've gotten that before for other packets, and I'm not seeing it here. In page 50 of the packet, the rear patio, you show, you're showing lighting. Let me pull it up here. You show the rear lighting by the patios. What type of lighting is that? Because is that in your lighting sheet at all? What types of light fixtures is going to be? You indicate lights on each side of the patios in the rear, but have you accommodated for what type of lights those are going to be in either whatever plan was the full part of the photometric plan? Are those lights indicated on that plan?
You're talking about the rear?
Yeah.
Well, we were concentrating on the front, not on the rear last time. So we didn't do a photometric plan in the rear.
No, I'm just asking, but I would think you'd want to say what kind of lights were there and have them on a sheet somewhere so we could see that, and did some indication in the rear elevation where those lights were going to be. Just detail. Again, on page 50 of the packet, the first floor plan, the easternmost garage, I see no lighting in there. I see the indication for the three westernmost garages. The right one, the easternmost garage doesn't have lighting indication, so I assume that was some type of omission. Is that right?
Probably.
Okay, that should be fixed.
Commissioner Powers, where are you looking right now? On the floor plan?
I'm looking at the first floor plan, variance on the garage all the way on the right. There's no indication on that garage of any lighting in there, in the front.
On the floor, not the lighting plan, though. The lighting plan has.
The first floor plan,
Lighting
at
plan
page
has it?
50, page 50 of the packet. I mean, those are, I assume that's indication for lighting. There's no indication of lighting on the garage. It's just the detail that.
But they're on the lighting plan.
Pardon me?
They're on the lighting.
They're on the light, they're indicating the lighting plan, but on this particular plan, it shows lighting, but I don't see it there. And the last thing is page 64 of the packet. The actual photometric plan, I wanted to talk about that for a second. Let's see here. So if I look at this, the eastern side of the western building, the concrete walk going to the back, it looks like the light levels are really low. It's like 0.1, 0.1, and it looks like you have on the easternmost building, on the east side of it, you have an L6 light in there, but you don't have one on the eastern side of the westernmost building, and the concrete walk going to the back. Is there a reason for that?
Well, I sent this package to the professionals who were doing this. So, you know, there were engineers who, and I said, well, do me that we have basically according to the code, whatever code is required, we add more lights that we used to have it, and I was told, and I checked that, you know, in my opinion, everything is okay. We have enough, plenty of light. So I'm not quite sure why you have concerns that would be not enough light.
Well, the only concern I have is that with the photometric plan you produced, the light level going to the rear of those back units, to me, seems pretty low, and that's quite a walk to go from the front all the way towards the back.
Well,
even though there's probably a porch light, the porch lights that you have in there the light levels, if it's on the actual photometric plan, the light levels don't seem to protrude enough out to the sidewalk towards the front of the property. It still seems, the light level seems pretty low to me. And that's really all I have to say, other than the comments that have already been made by my fellow commissioners. I too am concerned about the IEPA and easements and the pipe going to the back too. Those are all concerns I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Stylen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Andrew, I have a couple questions for staff. Our ordinances call for the submission of a current site plan plot of survey whenever a new development comes into before the commission. The plot of survey that we were given was done in 1960, some 55 years ago.
That's the plat of subdivision, not the plat of survey. That came from the village records. If you're talking about the 1960?
Whatever that 1960 document that showed the site plan. Had there been, and I understand that the property probably hasn't really changed at all since that time, so there's probably no necessity to really to look into it other than this 2 to 4 foot no man's land that has somehow come into being. Would a more accurate plot of survey, site plan have found out that discrepancy a little earlier in the game? And my next question that goes on along with that is, that 2 to 4 foot space, even though the petitioner says, well, I'll take down the fence that the neighbor has, well, does that imply that the neighbor is then going to have to extend his fence on both sides 4 feet and then reconnect, go through the work effort to reconnect his fence that they took down? Would it make more sense, rather than giving I don't want to say giving, for that no man's land to be given to this petitioner so he could build the fence on the perceived property line of the people to the north? But again, if we don't know where the fences are or who's the property line, because there's no, part of our ordinance says we're supposed to get a site plan that shows where all the current buildings are constructed, things are constructed, fences are constructed on adjacent properties. And we just don't have enough information to analyze what to do with this 4-foot area. Can that, who owns that 4-foot area?
To the first part, the 1960 plat is a plat of subdivision. It was provided to show the easement, to just show the origin of the easement. The survey that we have on file, I don't believe is part of your packet. I would like to say it was 2004 and then updated 2010. I believe it was originally done in 2004, and the same surveyor, I think. Can you correct that? Is that 2004 and then?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen the 2007.
So I think that's what, I don't have it in front of me right now, but it is recent. It does cover the current condition of the property. And that survey does have this strip of land noted on it. The question, I guess, then of how best to deal with that. I don't know that we have I can't think of anything similar where there was a strip of land that was not claimed. The petitioner's proposal for this certainly could be updated if they were to resurvey it with a different surveyor. This was surveyed by a licensed surveyor, so it has not been 1960 to now. It has only been a couple of years. Sure, they could survey it again and have somebody double check all the records. If they were to find that strip of land doesn't exist, if they were to find conflicting information on the surveys, they could revisit that. But to the best of their ability, they've determined that they don't own it. So we can't, my opinion then is if they can't document that they own the land, I don't think the village can allow them through a site plan approval to go outside of the boundaries of what they believe they own. If they do not believe they own it and they've not made a representation that they own the additional land, I don't believe that we can approve something off of what they believe they own.
Then what do we do with a 4-foot empty space of land that may be fenced in or not fenced in that...
Well, you could certainly have them not build their fence. And I mean, the options are put up a fence and offer the neighbors to take down the fence. Don't build the new fence, or resurvey to double check. I mean, I can't recall anything exactly like this, where there is a strip of land around a development that did not appear to be part of a tax parcel.
I just don't want to see an area that some kid or an animal or whatever can fall in between two fences that goes from 2-foot to 4-foot space. And, if they're going to put up a board-on-board fence and the next door neighbors have a board-on-board fence, then nobody's going to be able to see what's going on in there. I just don't think that is safe at all, and I believe that somehow needs to be resolved. My next thing is, I see, unfortunately, the plans are all different. I see sidewalks in certain places, and on other plans, they're not on places, The sidewalk is located by the parking lot on the site plan, but it's not on the landscaping plan or the irrigation plan. My expectations that when plans come before us, they're going to be complete. We got burned many years ago when somebody updated only page 1 to find out that there were some updates later on in the packet that nobody talked about. No indication was made on the plan that changes were made, and we got burned. I'm not going to get burned again. I want to see plans that all indicate where everything is, and not that something's missing on one plan, but it shows on the other plan, because that's how we got burned in the past. My last comment is, to everybody here, development is going to happen on this property at some point in time, whether it be today or tomorrow, 10 years, whatever. Development is probably going to happen. And I think, all the people need to work together to try and make the best of whatever the situation is. The new development has a street that goes from 30 some odd foot wide. Oh geez, if they got that extra 2 to 4 feet, they wouldn't need a variation for the street width, because now they could make a street that meets our code. That'd be a nice thing for us. But they have a street that goes from 30 feet down to 16 feet because there's a concrete curb that defines a parking lot or a parking curb on the next door neighbors. That's kind of strange too, so maybe you guys can work something out. They need a full street width access to the front. Maybe you need a little bit more substantial roadway improvement that will last a lot longer than, I don't want to, the stuff that you have today. The people in the rear, it's going to happen. How can we improve how can these people help you improve the value of your property? We talked about, do you want an iron railing type fence back around the pond, or do you want, a solid board-on-board fence, right? Well, which one is really going to help improve the value of your property? You should be working with them to try and get what's ever best for you, because it's going to happen. And I'd like to see the 3 parties work together to try and do what's best for the area and what's best for our village. So I'll get off my soapbox, but thank you for at least listening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. From my point of view, my biggest concern on this project has always been the possible contamination that's in there. The few borings that were done scattered across the site, I don't think gave a good representation of what you're going to find in there. And I would personally like to see more testing done in the area where we know that other pond was. We know it was there. We had old aerial photographs. We know it's not there now, so something filled it in. My other concern, of course, is the easement problem and the lack of communications between all the parties involved. At this point, How would the commission like to proceed? I mean, we can,
You have four total items in front of you. There are 3 public hearing dockets. All of these items are considered recommendation by this Plan Commission. The Plan Commission does not have a final vote on any of the 4 items. The 4 items are 2015-1A, which is the rezoning from R2 to R4. There's 2015-1B, which is the zoning variation related to the private road access and the setback on the west side. There's 2015-1C, which is the subdivision code variation, which relates to the diameter of the cul-de-sac. Then the last item is 2015, docket PC 15-2, which is the site plan and appearance approval for a 8-unit townhome development. That docket is the one that has a number of conditions attached to it. Going on the other ones, the rezoning has no condition attached to it. The variation does have a condition requiring that the site plan and variation exhibit is updated for consistency with the setback dimension. That's the 1511 versus what is on the more recent documents, 18.1 3/8 it appears to be. 2015-1C has no conditions of approval attached to it. If you'd like, I can read through the conditions on the site plan and appearance.
please.
First off is a note that the motion is updated to reference the color elevation drawing received March 12, 2015, and that the roof color in the building material exhibit is updated to charcoal as shown on that elevation drawing. Okay, then the conditions as they are drafted right now. Number 1, approval, again, approval of the site plan and appearance is subject to the prior approval of the rezoning and variation petitions as described in docket number 2015-1 A, B, and C, which just means that the site plan and appearance of the townhomes cannot be approved unless the proper zoning is in place. Number 2, proposed storm sewer and sanitary sewer shall be maintained and owned by the homeowners association. Number 3, the water main will be maintained by the village. Number 4, plat of subdivision shall be submitted for review and approval prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Number 5, during construction, petitioner will offer to remove the redundant fence segments for the property owners along Edgewood Drive. Number 6, petitioner shall provide evidence of the stability of soil prior to permit issuance, excavating and placing compacted fill if needed for the proposed type of construction. Number 7, developer shall restore the easement area on 325 North Milwaukee Avenue, providing an escrow or letter of credit for the duration of the project as it relates to the potential for damage to the driveway on 325 North Milwaukee. And number 8, the final engineering plans and landscape plan for permit review shall be updated to reflect the sidewalk and narrowing road configuration as shown on the site plan received March 6, 2015, which is the one displayed on the screen right now. And that is the total 8 conditions.
Were there any other conditions that the commission wanted to add? All right. Now, Andrew, if we vote on 1A and it is a negative result, does that invalidate?
The Plan Commission is a recommending body on all of these, so we would need to vote on all of them regardless of their outcome.
Okay. Would the petitioner like to have any other comments related to?
Comments, in regards to the soil, This is engineering stuff. Before we start the construction, we will do the boring. We don't want to put ourselves in the, or I don't want to put the owner in the situation that we discover something, during the excavation. Before we start the excavation, we will do the boring at the corner of the buildings, and we would like to determine the capacity of the soil. The structural engineer will have to know about this, because based on those tests, we will be able to design the width or the size of the footings. Right now, we just preliminary we know that there is a partially, unstable soil going below 2,000 pounds per square feet, square feet, I'm sorry. But where exactly, we at this point don't know. So we will do this. And we have to keep in mind we don't have any basements. If we're going with the strip footings, we're excavating only portion. To the contamination, well, I spoke myself with the company, and we went through the phase 1 and 2. And I said, explained to them, that's what we have a problem. The problem basically is because John, said that there is a problem. And there was a lot of words said, but to me, it's not very proof. So basically, we were forced, to hire the company, spend a lot of $1,000, do those, tests, phase 1, phase 2. We didn't find anything. Is the chance we will find? I don't know. But I was asking, I was told that we have the issue, and we have to the samples, those boring has to be done, so we will be safe and we'll be satisfied. Of course, you guys. Okay, everyone has to be safe. We don't want to run the situation that suddenly the area is contaminated and we have to remove this area. That's costly. That's definitely costly. It doesn't go into millions, but it's costly. And that's relating, to the soil. I mean, at this point, before we start the construction, I don't feel, bad. The only thing is how big will be the footing. If I will have 1,500, per square feet, or I have to make 4 feet, maybe footing would be more expensive, towards 2 feet. Communication, yeah, I wish. I wish really that we could communicate. And I wish that there won't be any civic duty that we won't build this, because, like Terry said, sooner or later this will be built. Someone will build this, and this land is standing more than 20 years, vacant, and this pond is basically, a garbage pond right now. Everybody can use it. So it will be nice to create something, and it will be nice to find the common sense and talk to each other and help each other. In any ways, like you said, even with the driveway, why do this narrowing? We can cut this, maybe we can relocate, the parking. I don't know at this point. I just started, to talk to Frank on the east side. Well, it wasn't the beginning very pleasant, but later on we will talk. There is some, sign maybe of the communication regarding to the easement. You guys have this. There is nothing like this. Easement is for one single family houses. There is an easement serving those properties. And if there will be 2 building built or 6, nothing is in the easement that would prevent us to do this. I mean, it's nothing said. So there was some inconsistency in the plans, yes, but I have to give those drawings, to the landscaping architect. I have to give those to, photometric plans. It takes a time. I couldn't coordinate this in a matter of 1 month, and I got basically, 10 days, before, I mean, basically a week before I submit the plot of survey from 2006, and I have to basically draw everything from scratch to coordinate this no man's land, and it is, and the fence is basically on the north side. And how does this approach? Well, I talked with Andrew, maybe we don't have to put the fence, maybe we can put some, shrubs or trees or, a green fence, not the solid fence. But, this is basically more for you guys. I mean, I don't know how to approach this. And I understand your worry. There will be something, if we will have a 2 fence, maybe there were wire fence, so you everything see, from the north side if something is going over there. But with our solid wood fence, yes, from our side, nobody will see it. And we're more than happy, to work with you, the way that will serve, the community. This is not the point. I mean, the fence is very expensive. That's what I would have to say.
So if you're going to work with us, then we need to table any decision until you decide what you're going to do.
No, right now, there is the situation that I was suggesting to you in the past meeting in regards to the fence. Can we put the green? And I didn't get the answer. And I'm asking you simple, can we put a green fence?
I don't have a problem with
I mean, you probably could, but you still got the connection issue. I mean, you're gonna, I assume you run the fence and the berm part of the fence is gonna butt up against the north side properties. I mean, that certainly would have to be addressed too.
Well, that's what when I was talking to Andrew, well, there was a fence, so, okay, we go with the wood fence. And,
Does every property on Edgewood have a fence in the rear yard?
yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have a question about the land that is on the north. I believe you said that it drops off. Okay, if it drops off and we would want to put a green fence, we would want a berm there. Now, is the berm going to just fall away on the other side because it dips off on the other side? And is that absolutely futile to put up a green fence if that's the case?
Were you suggesting landscaping or are you suggesting a berm?
Landscape, we have a fence, existing wire fence. Okay, so if we can put a green fence consistent with the shrubs and trees, the small trees, I mean, I can work with my, landscaping architect, to create something nice, but I have to permission from you guys that you will do it, that you can allow us to do this, because right now, you would like to have a wood fence.
But aren't you also going to have to go back and figure out the drainage issue with the 12-inch pipe to see if that's going to be allowed or that's going to have to be touched because of what could potentially go there? I mean, you're going to have to go and ask somebody if that's going to be an issue, right? Before you even would entertain putting up some kind of landscaping.
The pipe is
berm.
going on in this no man's land. Okay, it's close to the fence, and we can stay a little bit away, even from our property. There are small shrubs. There is no issue with the pipe, and we're not connecting to this pipe at all. We have a completely different sewer and storm system.
In question 2, Steve's comment about the 12-inch pipe, has engineering said anything about that? Is that an issue?
No, the engineering for this has been reviewed. The preliminary engineering, our engineers, the concerns that the village had are reflected in the conditions of approval. Where there's a design that is unusual, the suggestion of the staff is to make it clear which elements of this would be the responsibility of the homeowners association. But the project engineer, who's not here tonight, the project engineer had previously spoken to the volume of detention and the release rate. I believe what he had said was that the MWRD permit still holds. They would have to maintain the release rate that is currently on the books with MWRD. They have a permit. The detention for this area includes the detention for a larger property, the original permit, and they have to maintain that volume in the future. But as the petitioner said, there are other engineering elements on this in addition to the detention.
So, in other words, that 12-inch pipe would accommodate for these two buildings going to the east.
The village engineer isn't here right now, and the project engineer isn't here right now. When they were both speaking about it at the previous hearing, the village engineer had no issue with the design. I don't know that the water for this development is going through a 12-inch pipe. I'm not.
Andrew, wasn't the drainage going into the new retention area, going to dig that up a little bit, and then from the retention area was going through the pipe, correct? It was, they were controlling the release of the water out of the retention area downstream towards the river, right?
Yes, they're redoing the pond, but I don't know. I'm not either the project engineer or the village engineer. I don't know off the top of my head if the water from this development is leaving through a 12-inch pipe or an 18-inch pipe. I have no idea. I know that the two of them were here at a previous hearing, and there was no objection from the village engineer at that time.
Okay.
You're ready. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recommend approval of docket number PC, or docket number 2015-1A, rezoning from R2 single-family residential to R4 multiple-family residential.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Motion made by Commissioner Stylin, seconded by Commissioner Zangara. Mr. Secretary?
Thank you. I'm Commissioner Stylin. I vote no. Commissioner Zangara?
I'm okay, yes.
Commissioner Doorband?
No.
Commissioner Powers?
No.
Acting Chairman Johnson?
Yes.
That's 3 no, 2 yes, 1 absentee, and 1 vacancy. So what does that mean, Andrew?
A majority of the quorum is required for a motion to pass. A failed motion in this case is a less than 3. So yes, that is a failed motion. It does go on to the village board for their consideration, and it has no. The failed motion does not carry with it a supermajority requirement. It's still a straight majority when it goes to the board.
Wait, explain that again.
A failed motion on a recommendation from the Plan Commission does not require a supermajority of the village board. If they're not overturning, they are reviewing a recommendation and then they make a final decision. So it is considered a failed motion, which goes with the findings that we forward to the board. The board, though, can vote differently than the Plan Commission without requiring a supermajority. They have a simple majority requirement.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve 2015-1B, variations from Title 19 zoning relating to access and building setbacks.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Powers, seconded by Commissioner Stylin. Roll call.
Commissioner Powers?
No.
I'm Commissioner Stylin. I vote no. Commissioner Doorband?
No.
Commissioner Zangara?
No.
And Acting Chairman Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, that's 4 no, 1 yes, 1 absentee, and 1 vacancy.
Do I hear a motion on 2015-1C?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Can you hang on 1 second, please, while
Okay.
I update the last one? I have 1 yes, Commissioner Johnson, the rest no on that last one. Made by Powers, seconded by Stylin.
Yep.
Andrew, just a question about 1C. Does that variation include the street width recommendation? It has the cul-de-sac.
That was strictly the cul-de-sac.
It's
wasn't it?
it's the private road, access via the private road and the cul-de-sac.
You talking about the narrowing part, or?
No, just the decreased width.
Sorry, the 1C is the cul-de-sac dimension.
Solely the cul-de-sac.
Yes.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
That was a motion by Commissioner Stylin, second by Commissioner Powers.
Correct.
I'm Commissioner Stylin. I'll vote yes on that one. Commissioner Powers?
No.
Commissioner Doorband,
No.
Commissioner Zangara,
Yes.
and Acting Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, this one is 3 yes, 2 no, 1 absent, and 1 vacancy.
Can I have confirmation of the 2 noes real quick, please? On that one, it was
Mine.
Powers and Doorband.
Mr. Chairman, motion on PC 15-2.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Powers, seconded by Commissioner Zangara. Mr. Secretary.
And this is the one, do you want to
This
repeat all
is
the,
the site plan and appearance review. Yeah, you want to go through the conditions again?
I must.
You must.
There's a note. Motion is to be updated to reference the color elevation drawing that was received March 12, 2015, including the related exhibit for the building materials, to note that the roof color is to be the Timberline charcoal. Conditions of approval, number 1, the approval is subject to the prior approval of the rezoning and variation petitions as described in docket 2015-1. Number 2, proposed storm sewer and sanitary sewer shall be maintained and owned by the homeowners association. Number 3, the water main will be maintained by the village. Number 4, plat of subdivision shall be submitted for review and approval prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Number 5, that during construction, petitioner will offer to remove the redundant fence segments for the property owners along Edgewood Drive. Number 6, petitioner shall provide evidence of the stability of soil prior to permit issuance, excavating and placing compacted fill if needed for the proposed type of construction. Number 7, developer shall restore the easement area on 325 North Milwaukee Avenue, providing an escrow or letter of credit for the duration of the project as it relates to the potential for damage to the driveway on 325 North Milwaukee. And number 8, final engineering plans and landscape plans for permit review shall be updated to reflect the sidewalk and narrowing road configuration as shown on the site plan received March 6, 2015. I have made by Commissioner Powers, seconded by Commissioner Zangara.
Correct. Roll call.
Commissioner Powers?
No.
Commissioner Zangara?
No.
I'm Commissioner Stylin, I vote no. Commissioner Doorband?
No.
Acting Chairman Johnson?
No.
That's 5 noes, 1 absent, and 1 vacancy. And Mr. Chairman, for the record, I voted no on the variations that I voted no for. The reasons are that I don't think that standards number 1, 2, or 3 were met by the petitioner.
Which cover what? Just for our audience at home.
Standard 1 is state how the particular physical surroundings or topographical condition of the specific property involved would result in a practical difficulty or particular hardship upon the owner, lessee, or occupant as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulation was carried out. And number 2 is indicate how the hardship is due to unique circumstance that do not generally apply to other properties and uses. And number 3 was describe how the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property.
Thank you. Commissioner Powers, on your no votes.
Pretty much the zoning was number 3. Physical and economic conditions, as far as I'm concerned, haven't changed. Single-family houses could still be put there. And number 5, proposed usage is even though it's surrounded by townhomes, there's still single family in the area, and that's why I voted no at that. And since I voted for that, no for that, I feel there's really nothing I could vote as far as the rest of them.
Commissioner Dorband.
I'm voting no for the same reasons that Commissioner Stylen and Commissioner Powers voted no.
Commissioner Zangara, did you have a no on any of the?
I had two of them, and the reasons were already discussed.
Okay, thank you. My no vote on the site plan was mostly because of the inconsistency between drawings. I don't think it's complete enough to go to the board at this point.
We do need a motion to close 2015-1.
Okay, we need a motion to close 2015-1 altogether.
Sure, it can be a voice.
1, A, B, and C.
So moved, aye.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion to close 15-2?
Altogether is fine.
Oh, altogether, okay.
15 pages. Yeah. Right. We do have
Well, some
the
paper.
decision sheets. We type out what the conditions are. For anyone following along with this, there is no specific board date set for this right now. We will post it. You can always call the office and double check with us. We'll give the petitioner the opportunity to decide how they would like to present their petition to the board. If that does take a couple of weeks, there could be a delay in between. It may not be necessarily the next available board meeting. So you can check the village board agendas online. We do post them there. We post them here. You can also just call the office and ask if you'd like an update. Okay. And we do have something for you to sign. We have some papers for you to sign down there. What do we have, minutes?
We didn't get those, right?
Yeah, I believe you got everything.
All right, next up, we have approval of minutes for January 22nd, 2015.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And approval of minutes of February 12th, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Other business?
I'm sorry, who made and seconded the January 22nd?
I'm sorry.
The first one?
The first one.
First one.
I think I did.
And I think I seconded.
And seconded by Powers?
Yeah, and then the second one, I made the motion. I think
And somebody down there did.
it was Paul. Maybe Paul, Pam.
Pam.
Pam got the second one.
Okay, sorry. A lot of stuff to do.
Sign so many papers. There's his wallet. All right, moving on to other business. Commissioner Powers.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Stylen.
I don't have anything this evening, thank you.
Commissioner Dorband.
I have nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Zangara.
Can we say congratulations
Yeah.
to Brooke? Well, congratulations.
But she didn't get it approved by the commission.
Well, that's all right. That's all I
So
have.
she will be fined. I have no other business either. Mr. Jennings?
We have a possibility of the April 9th meeting being canceled. There's an event scheduled for this room that night. If we do have an item of importance, we will likely be meeting in a different room. We'll have to set up recording ability in that room and publish it to a different room. So as of today, we don't believe there is a high likelihood of having that meeting. If you have any issues with the schedule, if you know you were definitely not going to be in town, since we are at 6 commissioners right now, please just let us know and we'll put it on the commission calendar.
Which date?
Just generally speaking,
In
for any
general,
time
okay.
that, for the April 9th, just keep a lookout for any notice of cancellation.
I will not be here on the 26th.
Anyone else have any other dates that they definitely will not be in attendance?
Not at this
April
point.
23rd for me, Andrew.
I'll be gone most of May.
Okay, that's all I have.
Do we know if there's anything in the works to fill our vacancy?
I have not heard an update on the process.
Okay. All right. Mallory, anything?
Nothing. Oh, everyone have a good St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you.
Didn't for Brooke.
Brooke, did you have anything? Any updates, Brooke?
When did it happen?
You went from Jones to... Well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.